Hey folks, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Natasha and I do book things here. Today's video is going to be my wrap up for the month of September, but let's just first quickly discuss September. If you guys watch my vlogs and or have listened to me and or follow me on Twitter for the last month, you'll know that on August 26th I hurt myself at work. I injured my C7 vertebrae. Basically, I have a pinched nerve in my C7, which is radiating nerve pain down my arm to my fingers. It's getting a lot better, but I have been off of work for 3.5 weeks now, which is wild, I must say. Basically, what it means is I can't push, pull, what is it? I can't push, pull, lift, bend over. Basically, I can't use this arm and do anything intense with my neck and shoulder, which makes reading books and organizing bookshelves and stuff like that really hard. I do have my books here. I very carefully, with this hand, placed each one of my books in this room. It's a whole thing. But yeah, so for the first, I'd say 2 weeks of September, I was in what I call a 9.5 pain. Basically, there's a pain scale out of 10. It's how I communicate to doctors, my physiotherapist, Jeff, everybody's just sort of like what my pain levels are at. And I was at like a 9.5 pain. And then today I would say I'm at like a 3 or 4. So it's getting a lot better. I can use my hand. I don't have shooting or burning pain in my hand, but it's getting slowly better with physio and whatnot. That's just sort of an overview of how my September was. A lot of these books I listened to on audiobook because I physically couldn't hold a book. And then we had Contemporary-thon. So you have seen some of these, but I am going to give you guys my stat breakdowns, and I'm taking a lot of notes on my iPad. This is the treat I bought myself in September, by the way. I was like, you know what, if you're going to be on bed rest, spend $1,300 on yourself. It's fine. I read a total of 9 books, which is 3,283 pages, which is about 109 pages a day, although there were definitely multiple days where I didn't read a thing. Star rating is 2 2-stars, a 3-star, 4 4-stars, and 2 5-stars. Makes my month like a 3.66. Fantasy, contemporary, fantasy, contemporary, mystery, historical fiction, and then 3 contemporaries. It was a good month, I'm not gonna lie. I read some interesting things. I definitely got back into reading again after August. This whole last 2 months have just been a shit show for me. So start at the lowest rated, work our way up to the 5 stars. Lowest rated book of the month, really no surprise. Talked about this at length on my Contemporary-thon vlogs. That is Unpregnant by Jenny Hendricks and Ted Kaplan. This is a YA road trip book. Essentially, it is a road trip book where the girl finds herself pregnant and then has to enlist the help of an old friend of hers, they're not really talking, and go on a road trip out of state in order to get to a clinic. I really liked the road trip part of this, and I really hated the fact that the authors did say in the very back of this, under acknowledgements, when you tell people you're going to write a funny book about abortion, most of the time you get is a blank stare and a few cautious step backwards. So it's really important that we thank everyone who not only didn't do that, but instead cheered us on. Now, I think in the case of this book, it wasn't paired well, and so there's definitely ways I guess they could have done it, but it just wasn't really done in this book, and it wasn't done well. Yeah, I definitely talk more at length about this in my Contemporary-thon vlog, but the parts of this that I did like were the quirky road trip parts, the very stereotypical parts that are in road trip books. Car breaking down and meeting weird people and getting into hijinks and etc. But it felt out of place in the overall tone and the serious topic within this book. So because of that, I gave it a 2. Next 2-star book I have here is Anatomy of a Scandal by Sarah Vaughan, and this just was a 2, not because other people wouldn't like it, just because it's not something that I personally like. I don't like courtroom dramas. I don't know why I thought that this wouldn't have that, but this is basically a courtroom drama. I'll be honest, I read this when I was really doped up on painkillers and pretty boring. It's also pretty graphic in the description of sexual assault, so if that's a trigger warning for you, then stay clear of this one. It definitely mimics a lot of things in the news at the time. I think this was a 2017, 2018 release, and it definitely has a lot of those similarities between like the Brock Turner case and stuff like that, and just sort of, you know, being in the public eye, what that means when you're involved then in a scandal, and the credibility of people and things like that. It was interesting enough, but I didn't really care, so I'm giving it a 2. Then my 3-star book of the month is First and Then by Emma Mills. This is a cute, light, contemporary high school. I realized, I don't want to really say this because I don't want to like box myself in, but I'm realizing as I'm entering into my 30s, hi, I'm 30, it takes a really good teenage YA romance to actually get any sort of emotion out of me. Otherwise, I find them all pretty, I don't want to say boring, but just kind of like, okay, that's cute, next. And I feel like I could have read a more thought-provoking, intense book. That's not to say I don't like this genre, it's not to say I won't read them, but it takes a lot for me to be shook by one or emotionally impacted by one. And this one just didn't really do it for me. It does have a really cute side story with her cousin, and her cousin's the reason why her cousin then is then sort of staying with the family, and sort of like, you know, even though they are related, it's sort of like developing a sisterhood and a brotherhood. So that I really like, but the romance, bleh, just a teenage romance. So I thought it was pretty average and honestly kind of forgettable, so I gave it a 3. It's fine. It's fine. I definitely like other Emma Mills books more than that one. It's fine. Next up, I read a contemporary historical fiction book. This one was really good and makes me want to read her other book that I have. This is Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng, and this is a historical fiction family contemporary. I really do like family contemporaries, however, like I have an issue where a lot of the ones I've read are very literary, which just goes over my head, quite frankly. This one wasn't like that. This one was, while there was layers to it, it was all laid out pretty well. This is about a Chinese-American family in the 1970s, so they play a lot on the different topics of racism and being a biracial couple in the 70s, and the things that their children have to endure. In this, right away, their daughter is missing and dead, and so it unveils the story from there. That's not a spoiler, that's on there. And it's finding out those secrets in a family and the secrets behind everything. And so that line, Everything I Never Told You, is really impactful in this book, and it definitely made me sort of like think about family secrets and the things that you think your family knows about you but are actually just cover-ups, or you have a sort of like double life kind of scenario. This was really well done, and I quite liked it, and I gave it a 4. It looks short. It's not. It's like 300 and some pages. It was really good. And like I said, I don't typically like historical fiction, but in that one, I did. So there's always those books that can take me by surprise, and I'm happy it was that one. Next up, I read something that maybe is surprising to you guys. I don't know. This is Maggie Stiefvater's The Raven Boys. I finally read Raven Boys. Now, I listened to this on audiobook, and again, I had several painkillers. There's definitely things that went over my head that I missed, but overall, kind of liked it. Not gonna lie, gave it a 4, found it interesting. Will I continue on with the series? Yeah, probably, but I don't own the books, so if I see them, I will probably grab them for cheap if they're around. But I'm intrigued. Like, this definitely reads as the first book in a 4-book series, or however many books. They're definitely just setting up bigger things to be discovered, and so that's where I'm kind of like, what? Follows the story of Blue, who comes from a family of psychics, but she herself isn't psychic, but she can see dead people or something. Listen, my apologies if this is off. And then she becomes sort of friends, acquaintances with the Raven Boys, these boys from a private school, and they're kind of Chauncey. All the different boys have sort of like different characters. I don't know who my favorite is yet. I don't know. Couldn't tell you. They're obsessed with finding these ley lines, and there's like a sleeping giant or something. Listen, it's a fantasy, so you gotta understand that it's not my thing. So do I remember every single detail? No. If I do continue on the series, will I go back and read like a Wikipedia page to figure out exactly what I read? Yeah, probably. I realized that I like Maggie Stiefvater's writing a lot. It's just the kind of writing I enjoy. I really liked All the Crooked Saints a lot, and so that's one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to read this, and the writing's good, so I will probably continue on with that, but for now I give it a 4. Next 4-star book I read was Eliza in Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia. I'm so happy I finally read this. So this follows Eliza, who is the creator of this online comic, and that's sort of her secret. She's shy in real life, in high school and stuff like that. Her online life, she has this huge following for this comic that she draws, and it's amazing. So it kind of talks about sort of being, like, in a way, being sort of secretly famous, you know, and that's something that's really interesting given YouTube success and stuff like that. I definitely really liked parts of this, and the art part of this, it was just really delightful. I don't know why I didn't give this 5. I don't know. Again, all of these books were read real stoned, so I mean, you know. But yeah, I think I gave this a 4 just because of that sort of convenience of, you know, the new person that comes to her school happens to be the biggest fan of her work and stuff like that, and they keep it secret. It's really cute, and it definitely does talk about, you know, the things that happen when people in her school find out, and it's just nice. It's nicely written. This was a cute teenage contemporary. See, and that's what I mean. Like, there's some that I'm just don't really care about when the romance is the focus. This one I feel like her art and her secrecy behind her art was more the focus, and I really liked it. So I gave that a 4. So the next 4-star is one that I did talk a great deal about on my vlogs, and that is Permanent Record by Mary H.K. Choi. This is sort of a 23-year-old age range, which I really like. More contemporary books of that age range. And it follows Pab, who is a university college dropout, and he works at this bodega in New York City, which, by the way, this gave me intense wanting to go back to New York City vibes. New York, having been there twice for a short period of time, I understand the pull, and yeah, it definitely made me daydream about New York a lot. But he works at a bodega, and then one night, this sort of famous, almost want to say Taylor Swifty or Miley Cyrus-y kind of, Miley Cyrus I would say, kind of pop star comes in, and they are sort of fast friends, and there's this like relationship that goes on between them. But one thing I really like this is that it reads very realistic text and tone and things that people do, but it's realistic in the way that it's written. It's what really kind of bugged me, and why it's not a 5 is that I feel like it was unrealistic in the way that this would happen, and I don't like books about celebrity and rich people and the extravagance of celebrity, and so that part of it is what really sort of bugged me. I definitely can see why other people like that, like if you are somebody who likes reading about boy bands and fan culture and stuff like that. I'm looking at you, Chelsea. You know, I could see why this would be a 5. Like, Mel rated this a 5, and I see that. It's just that part of it that she liked is something that I don't like, which is why I gave it a 4. But yeah, I definitely think it's really interesting. I liked the ending. The ending did feel a little abrupt, but I think that that's realistic, especially for the age range in this. I definitely can think of several acquaintances, relationships, boys, men, whatever, where it was very simply like, this is the end of communication. Like, we ghosted each other, more or less. I was dating before the term ghosted was a thing, so we just stopped talking to each other, moved on. And so that sort of abrupt ending to a relationship, that's not really a spoiler for the end of the book, but that's sort of, you just never hear from this person again, or like you see them on Facebook 5 years later, like that is realistic, and that's one thing I really liked about this. So, and then lastly here I have my 2 5-star books of the month. The first one, again, talked about in Contemporary-thon vlogs, that is The Flatshare by Beth O'Leary. This was just a true delight. Honestly, a true delight. I listened to it on audiobook. It was fantastic. So this follows the story of Tiffy, which, first of all, this book is set in the UK, and there's so much of it that like just reads like that. It's really kind of cute. I don't typically like that, so if I like it, That's saying something. Her name's Tiffy. She has a friend named, like, what was her friend's name? Just the fact that she's called Tiffy is just like, I don't know why that's entertaining to me. She has a friend named Gertie. Like, it's very cute, okay? Has just such an amazing, quirky, like, sure of herself sense of self, which I love because that's basically me in a character. Like, I'm not 100% like her, but like just that sort of eccentric, sureness in oneself is something that I like about myself, and I liked about this book. So Tiffy works at this craft publishing house called Butterfingers, which, I mean, I'm shook. And she has this like really fun boss and a bunch of coworkers. She gets to do all these like crafty things, and she recently broke up with her ex-boyfriend and is trying to find a new place to live, but it's really expensive. So she ends up in this agreement with Leon, our male character, and basically they split the flat, like the apartment, flat, whatever. And so she's in the evenings, he's in during the day, because he's a nurse who works like weird hours, and so it works for them. So they end up splitting the apartment and half a bed. It's really fun. Listen, it's delightful. Okay, there's a lot of like little tropes, but it's not done in a way that's like, oh my god. Like, I thought for sure they were setting it up as like there was only one bed, and there is only one bed. But neither of them are in that bed at the same time for like months, and it's just fascinating. It's just delightful, okay? It's really good. And Leon's character is fantastic. I will just trigger warn if you can't handle talks of sort of ex-boyfriends and stalking and emotional abuse. There is a little bit of that in here, but it covers it so well, and it covers consent really well as well. And yeah, it's wonderful. Wonderfully written. The characters are great. Absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. Gave it a 5. Probably my favorite, maybe one of my favorite contemporaries that I've read all year. So my last 5-star book of the month, I don't know if this is a surprise to people, maybe, I don't know. I read Middlegame by Seanan McGuire, and this was who would have thought that I'd be rating an adult fantasy 5 stars, but this is one of those books that's just unlike anything I've ever read, and I probably ever will read, and that's why in itself it's just a 5. This, oh man, I don't even know how to describe this. This is the first book I read this month too, so my apologies. This follows twins Roger and Dodger, and they are put into creation essentially to be godlike, and that's, I don't know how else to describe that. And so one of them is really numbers focused, the other one is really words focused, and together over their lifetime, this book occurs. And you come to find out what this hand is. Oh my god, that was the best part. Because you look at this book, you're like, what the fuck is this hand? I'm like, I'm so confused. And you realize what this hand symbolizes, and that was just wonderful as well. So listen, you want a weird adult fantasy that I can handle, that I can take, not liking fantasy, do read this one. This one is amazing. I thought it was excellent, so 5 stars. Those are all of my books that I read in the month of September. I have a huge October TBR, so stay tuned for that. I have an October haul, my Spookathon TBR, just general October TBR, and yeah, a lot of stuff to read in October. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below if you agree or disagree with any of my ratings. So yeah, I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.